Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me. Today's class is on how to search secondary sources. I'm going to cover several different types of secondary sources today as a general way of getting started any research project and why you should search in various secondary sources as a method of getting started, what you can get from them, how you can stay organized, and just anything I do today and the subject that I'm going to use can be applied to any topic or jurisdiction that you have. So one of the first places that I want to go is at the very top of the screen under the tools icon. I'm going to click where it says Outline Builder. Anytime you are starting a project, this should be something that you start with. And so I'm going to create an outline, and I am going to call this Dog Bite Memo. So my hypothetical today is dealing with a dog bite in the state of Florida. My client's child was playing on the sidewalk and walked over to the neighbor's yard and stuck their fingers through the fence. There was some extra space there, perhaps, and the dog bit the child. And so we need to research that in the state of Florida and find some of the cause of action, some of the elements, maybe some cases, but I don't really know perhaps a lot about dog bites. Maybe I don't know a lot about the state of Florida, tort law, or anything like that. So anytime you're researching, one of the first things that you want to ask yourself is what do I know and what don't I know? Now, your first thought might be to run straight into cases. Well, cases are great, but if you don't know what the cases need to do for you yet, they're not going to be much help. And that's where secondary sources come in. They can tell you what you need to do, and then you can find the cases. However, a lot of times secondary sources will lead you to the cases at the same time. So it's a great place to start. And then there are a couple of other reasons that I like starting in secondary sources. And when we get into some results, I'll tell you why. So I'm going to click on the Content Types tab to get started, and then click on Secondary Sources. Now, I break up secondary sources kind of into three big categories, kind of your general big monster secondary sources, things like the American Law Reports, American Jurisprudence, Corpus Juris Secundum, your big encyclopedias that cover every practice area and every jurisdiction. So those are good ones to start with if, again, you're just not sure where to go. Any of those will be a good place to start. I'm also going to highlight a couple of treatises that we will uncover. And then you can also research by your state. If you are researching state law, researching in a state secondary source is really helpful because you want to get an understanding of the law of your jurisdiction written, hopefully, by an expert in that state. So that's going to be a bonus for you. And then finally, by topic or practice area. Again, these are going to be on your issue, hopefully your practice area, again, written by experts in those fields. So why not pick the brain of someone who already knows a lot about this subject, and they may lead you to the good case law, statutory law information that you're trying to uncover in your research. I'm first going to start with probably one of my favorite databases, and that is the American Law Reports. The American Law Reports is a treatise, and it's a great place to start in the sense of, again, it's going to cover every jurisdiction, all 50 states and federal, as well as all topics. You can also see here on the screen that ALR does have several topical volumes, or you can search in all of ALR. Now, I am researching dog bite liability, and so it's kind of coming under personal injury and maybe damages. So I'm going to take a peek at the personal injury damages volume, I always say choose the path of least resistance. If you see a topic here that is under your practice area that you're researching, go into that smaller database. Don't search in all of ALR if you don't need all of ALR. If your issue is dealing with labor and employment, maybe workers' comp, immigration, go into that volume. Narrow your search result potential, and so your searches don't have to be so perfect. So I'm going to go ahead and click into personal injury damages, and then type my simple search, dog bite liability. Now, one of the reasons that I like starting in a specific database and then starting with a search such as dog bite liability is I've really narrowed my results. I've gone into ALR. I've even picked a specific volume of ALR, the personal injury damages. So it allows my search to be really broad. I don't have to be too specific yet. I always worry that as a researcher, you might think you're looking for something perfect. You're trying to find that, article or that case right on point. And don't narrow up too much because you're trying to be perfect. Go where you think your answer is and then start that way. And that's what I'm doing here is I think my answer might be in this volume. So my search can be a little bit broad because I've really narrowed up the potential of results. And I will click search. Again, I haven't entered everything. I haven't entered in about the child. I haven't entered in what kind of injury they had. I didn't mention the fence. What kind of fence? Was it a gated fence? Was it unlocked? Was it a wooden fence? Was it, did the family have one of those invisible fence lines? So there's a lot of things here that I could have added, but I didn't. I was really just trying to see what was out there so that I don't miss anything. And here we have 447 results, and that's not too bad. Obviously, you don't have time to read through that many results, but here's the other reason that you should like secondary sources, and that is I can tell a lot about the articles simply based on the titles of the articles. And so I can kind of do a quick scan of each of the article titles to see if they might be helpful to my research. Whereas if you always start with a case law search, you don't really know what the case is about if it says Jones versus Jones or Smith v. State or Johnson versus Smith. You have to open the case and determine whether or not you like it. Here, I can see that this is about personal injuries inflicted or caused by an animal within the homeowner's or personal liability policy at some sort of show, maybe a dog show, a farm show. Here we have recovery of damages for emotional distress due to the treatment of pets and animals. Damages for killing or injuring a dog. And again, so you can kind of go through to see what these are about. Now, you might not have time to read through 447 articles or even their titles. So over on the left side, you can do what's called the search within results. And that is allowing you to search within the results that you already have. So you're not going to get anything newer. You're just going to make the list smaller. So now I'm going to enter in another one of those key little facts about my hypothetical that it involved a fence. And so I want to see if any of these 447 articles reference a fence. And so it dropped my list down to 77, basically about 20% of my original result, which is definitely much more manageable. And so now I can see my new search terms that are highlighted in purple as opposed to my original search terms that were highlighted in yellow. And that's something else that I really like about doing the search within result search is that I can see how related the new term is compared to the original result. Was it mentioned once? Was it mentioned 4 times, 6 times, 1 time, several times? So again, start playing around with your searches. Don't try to fill the box the first time with everything that you can possibly think of. Start with something simple and then do a search within results with another key fact or another key issue. Maybe then the type of injury, or that it was a child versus an adult, perhaps. Again, maybe it was, on a farm, maybe it was at the dog show. So again, just different facts you can start entering in individually. I'm going to go ahead and click into document number 7 and also show you why I love ALR. So here we have recovery under state law. So this is definitely, hopefully, going to be helpful. And so it's going to give me a little bit of information about what this article is going to cover. And then it's going to give me an outline about this article. And again, everything that it's going to talk about. Maybe, there's another part of your hypothetical that deals with maybe the mom came upon the scene and saw her child being mauled by this dog from the next door neighbor, and she's trying to recover as a bystander. So that might be another issue that you're having to address. So here's some information on that. I can scroll through. Here we can see specific issues. Here we have dogs, attacks by dogs, dizziness, harassment, jaguars, lots of different things here that I can kind of go through to see if there are any that are also related to my research. And then my other favorite reason of loving ALR is the table of cases, laws, and rules broken down by jurisdiction, federal and state, if available. So if I'm researching, let's say in the state of Florida, I can scroll through and I can see that there are about 9 or 10 cases here that might get me started on my research. And I can then access this information for my project and jump into any of these cases. I can also see in what section they are discussed by this article. If I go back up to the top and I can see in section 6 and 7, perhaps it's talking about, the bystander rules. So that was maybe something I would want to take a look at. I did want to highlight and show you how you can copy and paste things into your outline. So maybe I want to remember this. It's talking about bystander damages. I can click add to my outline. Here we have my dog bite memo. That was the last outline I was in. And I can save that into my outline and easily access that information again the next time that I go into Westlaw and go back to some of these cases. All right, so that's ALR, probably one of my favorite databases. It's a great place to start, covers every jurisdiction, every practice area. Again, if you're not sure where to start, it's a great place to start just because you'll hopefully find something. All right, I'm going to go back to the homepage and go back to secondary sources. And the next place that I want to take you to is a state secondary source. And I'm going to go ahead and click into Florida. Now, again, whatever project you're working on, whatever jurisdiction, you could select that jurisdiction. So I'm just using Florida as my example today. And I always say, look into your state jurisdiction secondary sources if you are researching state law. There are great gems here, right on point, right, talking about, your state statutes written by experts in that state and in that practice area. So this is a lot of work already done for you. You just kind of have to source and find it. And so one of the things, again, if you are researching in a particular jurisdiction, this should be one of the first steps that you take is look at all of the resources that you have available just to teach yourself a little bit more about Westlaw and what you have access to. So I can see here we have, law reviews from all the various law schools, various topical practice series, journals, legal education materials, practice materials, and I can kind of keep going just to see what else we have here. The Florida jurisprudence, that is a great secondary source. Motor vehicle, personal injury. Again, a lot of great information here just to let you know what is available, what you have access to, forms, lots of cool and helpful information. But I am going to go back to the first screen. And I want to click into Florida Elements of Civil Actions. Now, in a lot of databases, your secondary sources will open up in the way that it is right here on the screen. And this is called the table of contents view, as if I was looking at it in print in a book. And I love that because maybe you don't know exactly what to type yet. I just wrote dog bite liability. Maybe that was what was mentioned in my hypothetical from my professor. But what if maybe in your jurisdiction, they're called canines or mongrels or animals or domestic pets? And so looking at it through a table of contents is sometimes very eye-opening. It's a great educational experience in the sense that you're learning the language of that practice area or, of that jurisdiction as well. So always consider opening it up in table of contents form as opposed to always starting with a search. So right here on this page, I can see part 2 in Elements of Civil Actions that there is a whole part on actions involving animals. So I can begin opening that section, and there is a whole chapter on dog bite liability. And so right here, there are about 6 sections, even a sample complaint. So that's great. Jury instructions. If in the future you're ever in clinic, if you're ever in an actual kind of like legal practice, legal office class, here we have sample complaints, documents for you. But what I love here is elements of a prima facie case of dog bite liability against the dog's owner, but also the defenses of a prima facie case. So no matter which side you're arguing, you have a section in this treatise here in this practice guide to help you. So if I pop open section 2011, I can see here that the defendant is the owner of the dog. The defendant's dog bit the plaintiff, and one of the following occurred. And so this to me is also a great part to copy and drop into my outline. This is now what I'm starting to learn is what I need to get my cases to do for me. I need to talk about how the defendant was the owner of the dog. How does a court determine that? Did he have to live at the house? Was he there every day? What if it was part of a divorced couple's dog and he, moved back and forth? Was it, at the show? Was it at a pet store, perhaps? Who owned the dog? Was it the store owner? Was it the big company? That's what now I need to get my cases to do. The defendant's dog bit the plaintiff. How do I prove that? Yes, there were witnesses. There was, camera footage of it. The dog, we have dog teeth prints or whatever it is that you might need to do. And then either one of these also occurred. So this is what I love about searching in secondary sources is it's going to kind of lay out everything that you need to do your arguing in your memo assignments. And so here we have all of this other information. Another thing that I will say that I like about state secondary sources versus the things like ALR, AmJur, Corpus Juris Secundum is that a lot of times your state secondary sources are only about 5 to 10 pages. That first article we looked at was 170. I don't want to tell you not to look in ALR. It's an amazing database. It would be one of the first places I would go. But if you're looking for something a little easier on the eyes that, may, not take up an entire afternoon to read and look through, then, maybe consider a state secondary source. And so here I can also see quickly that it's referencing the Florida statutes. I can hop into the footnotes to see if there's anything here. Maybe I want to jump into 76704. So it's leading me into that statutory information. Maybe I don't want to forget that. I can copy that into my outline so that I don't forget it. Maybe I have to go to class after this and I can easily go back to my outline. I don't have to read through this whole article again. So I love that outline builder. It's just kind of saving stuff for me as I'm reading, maybe a good quote, maybe a good sentence or holding, whatever it might be. I can just drop it into that outline as I'm going. That was Florida Elements of Civil Actions. The other database specifically in Florida that if you are researching perhaps Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, anything that says jurisprudence, practice series with your state's name is a great place to begin. Again, this is just going to be very much like AmJur, the American jurisprudence, but for your state. So it will have everything for your jurisdiction. And so here I have the whole section on animals, liability for injuries by animals, for damage or injury by dogs, and then you have the ones other than dogs. So again, it was pretty easy for me to just start using the table of contents to open up each section. Obviously, I know that I, prepared this outline so I knew where to go, but this is what, getting on Westlaw will help you do, is just starting to click and see where things are so that the next time you are looking for it, you're thinking to yourself, oh yeah, Florida jurisprudence, I can go back and do that. Louisiana practice series, yeah, I can take a look at that. Georgia, practice series, whatever it might be that you're looking for, you can easily go back and just do those clicks. And so here we have liability for dog bite injury generally, non-owner liability for dog bites. What if it was someone from rover.com and they were dog sitting for you and walking your dog, perhaps the dog walker, and they let the dog loose in the dog park? And, are you still responsible for that? Or is the person who was in the care of your dog? So lots of things to always ask yourself. And so here we have this article in Florida jurisprudence, and it's leading me to some topic and key numbers. We'll talk about those later. Some AmJur pleading and practice forms. I love anytime an article has an illustration. So this is kind of like a hypothetical within the article itself. So these are actually great for exam prep. So these are kind of exam prep type questions, illustrations. And so here we have some footnotes. There's my Florida statute again. That looks familiar. Maybe some new cases for me to take a look at. I can look over on the left side of the table of contents, maybe I need to go back to another section. But again, I just wanted to highlight another database for you, just to highlight that don't just do a search in one database. If you find your answers, that's great. Maybe you got super lucky and you're good to go, but always run one or two searches just to cover your bases. I now saw that statute in 2 articles. So hopefully I have the right statute. I'm, good to go. I feel confident that I've seen it multiple times. So that might be the exact statute that I need. And that kind of goes the same for cases. If you start seeing your case names, party names in in an Amjur article, in a jurisprudence article, in a, the elements of civil action, the practice series, in a law review, in a journal, in a text or a treatise, if you start seeing those things over and over again, if it's the go-to case that people reference, that to me also exudes confidence for you that you have the information that you need. All right. And then the final place that I want to take you into is our secondary sources by topic. And I'm going to go into torts and personal injury. Now, if you haven't found something yet, this could be the place to go. I feel like if you start with one of your big encyclopedias, something in your jurisdiction, you will have likely found something. But as I've also said, you should definitely cover your bases and look and learn about new databases. And that's how you discover them and uncover them. A lot of times I get questions from students that I didn't know about that database, or I didn't know that it was there. And it always kind of, always kind of bums me out in the sense of like, I wish you would have asked, or, if you ever have questions, please ask me, and don't ever hesitate to ask me. I'll leave my email at the end of this. But as I'm going through, again, this is definitely just something to teach yourself about what is available on Westlaw. We have over 40,000 databases. So this is, it can take you a long time. So if you are looking for something, or, you're wondering, does Westlaw have something like this? Email me and ask, or stop at the library desk and talk to one of the reference librarians and say, this is what I'm working on. Do you know of a great database that might be helpful for me? And that's what we're all here for. We want you to be successful. And so this is the database I'm going to show you today in this section is a database called Causes of Action. This is probably one of my favorite databases that I can honestly tell you I wish I would have known about when I was in law school. It's a database that tells you what you need to prove or defend a cause of action. And this can be in any jurisdiction. So like I said, if you go to your state and you can't find a really good database there, or a good article, try something like Causes of Action. So I'm going to type in, again, my simple search, dog bite liability. Again, keeping it simple. I don't have to be overcomplicated, especially because I'm in just one database. I'm not searching in all of Westlaw. I'm not searching in all secondary or even all torts databases. I'm just searching in one. So my search can be relatively broad right now. Remember, if I get too many, I can go back to search within results and add fence, child, pet store, dog walker, whatever other facts might be important. So here I have 174 results. Again, one of my favorite reasons of starting with a secondary source is I can tell a lot by the article titles before I even open the article. So I can just, kind of look through here to see if there's anything that might be helpful. And I am going to hop into the first article, Cause of Action against owner, keeper, or harborer of domestic animal to recover personal injuries. And it looks a lot like that ALR article. And it starts with an outline of what's going to be covered. Again, I can see it's 268 pages. Don't let that scare you. There's a beautiful outline right here letting me know what this is going to talk about. So I could easily jump to the part of the article that I want. But again, look through this outline. This is great. Checklist, complaint, answer, client info for the future. If you're in clinic or, working as a summer associate, sample complaint, sample answers, federal law versus state law. Here, there's a whole section on Florida, Louisiana, maybe Mississippi, whatever jurisdiction you're researching in. But then at the top of the actual text of the article, a prima facie case in common law strict liability action requires proof of 1, 2, 3. In a negligence action, it requires proof of 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then you have your defenses. So just like before, you have, plaintiff side versus defense side. And so again, this might be what I want to drop into my outline, just in case I want to remember that or come back to that information from this article. Or if I'm on the defense, I could copy that and drop that into my outline if I wanted to do that. So this to me is a great database. It's easy to get started. You can, again, just type in something very simple like I did, dog bite liability, and get the information that you want. I could have done search within results to maybe narrow it down just a little bit. But again, because I can see what all the articles are about with their titles, it didn't take me long to figure out that this might be the article I would want to read. I could scroll through again, maybe the first 20 or so. Here we have another example, a vet in a vet's office. I didn't think about that place. So, your hypothetical might take place in all kinds of places. Mine was the next door neighbor, and then there was a fence involved. But, here are lots of different ways, to look for your particular issues. So that is just kind of a brief introduction into secondary sources on Westlaw, your big kind of general secondary sources, your encyclopedias, your jurisprudence, things like AmJur, Corpus Juris Secundum, ALR, your state secondary sources, no matter what jurisdiction you're researching in, that's always a great place to start. And then by topic or practice area, those are always a good place to start if your topic or practice area is covered within any of those. Again, any are a good place to start. I never want to say you have to start with ALR or you have to go into your state. We all think differently. We all may have different knowledge of different subjects or maybe at a different point in our research. So you might want to start with a state secondary source, and I might want to start with ALR, or I want to take a look at those tort databases and see what might be out there written by an expert in that field. So any of these are a good start. But just my other piece of advice is try searches in different databases. Try one or two Florida, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alaska databases and just see what you get. See what kind of content. How are the articles written? Is there an outline? Is it just, 1 page, 5 pages? And kind of start teaching yourself what's available to you. I'm going to go back to my outline builder that I was working on throughout the class. So here's my dog bite memo that I've captured all of this great information, so I can easily go back to those documents where I captured that information from. I can also start adding headers to my outline. So maybe I want to highlight the elements of an action, and I can rearrange things and move this up. And save that. And then I can even break it down deeper, and I can make elements of an action parts 1, 2, 3, 4, however I want to do my outlines. You can then download this, save it into Word or PDF, email it to yourself, email this information to a professor if you have to send them what you've been researching, any documents that you found. So this is a great way to keep track of all of that. You can also see that I have several outlines going for my doctrinal classes. Maybe I'm on journal or law review. Maybe I'm doing legal research for a professor, helping them with an article as a research assistant or a teaching assistant. So you can have as many outlines on your password. Your password is yours. So, and we don't delete these. So you can keep these until you graduate. And, when you're prepping for the bar, perhaps in the future, you can go back and see this information and, go back to your contracts or your torts outline, your con law, and remember your 1L year, but also have a lot of great information already prepared, getting ready to prep for the bar. And currently for your finals. I did want to leave my email for you in case you wanted to email me. My email is anna.guerra@tr.com. So if you ever need to email me, just email me. And I usually get back to you within a day. I might be teaching, I might be traveling. So always give me at least a day to get back to you. But if you are researching online Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central Time, you can use live chat or you can call a reference attorney 24/7 every day of the year. So live chat is Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Central. The reference attorney line is 24/7 every day of the year, even major holidays. So if you do need an answer right away and you're struggling, reach out to any of these resources. Also reach out to your law librarians and your law school library. They can also help you. They're all experts on Westlaw too, and are also there to help you be successful. Thanks so much, and I hope this was helpful, and be on the lookout for more Westlaw training online. Thanks so much.